Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Political Forum presented by the Rocky Hill Chamber of Commerce. My name is Brian Wazina, and I'm the president of the Chamber. Thank you for joining us. The Rocky Hill Chamber is proud to present this program to help get the information out to voters. We're recording this forum in 4 separate interviews, which will all be available at rhchamber.org. This year, we've decided to do things virtually instead of in the studio. Each candidate is joining me by video chat from wherever they are today. Today, we're joined by Representative Kerry Wood, representing Connecticut's 29th District in the State House of Representatives. This district covers all Rocky Hill and parts of Newington and Wethersfield. Kerry, I'd like to start off by hearing a little bit about you, and can you tell our audience about your background and how you ended up here running for office?
Hi, everybody. Brian, thank you so much for doing this. I want to thank the Rocky Hill Chamber for having me on. So I born and raised in Rocky Hill, and I went to all the Rocky Hill public schools. I went to Mosier School pre-Reconstruction, and I also went to West Hill School, and I got redistricted, so I went to Stevens School as well, the middle school and the high school, and I had a wonderful education. And after high school, I went to college at American University in Washington, D.C., and I studied political science and business. I interned on Capitol Hill and really loved the whole experience, but I missed home. So I came back to Rocky Hill and started a marketing company. And from there, I went into corporate America at one of GE's companies called Momentive Performance Materials. And I was only there for a few years when I got asked to join a growing real estate company. There was about 5 of us when I started, and the company grew to one of the largest construction companies in Connecticut, and I really got the bug for real estate. I got my realtor's license, and today I'm working at New England Retail Properties in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and I work with some of the best tenants there are. I work with Costco, Madison Reed, Go Health Urgent Care. I also work with some amazing landlords, and I help lease and sell their properties. And for me, I did a lot of interaction with state government and state agencies, and I saw a lot of room for improvement. So when in 2018, the 29th seat opened up, I threw my hat in the ring, went campaigning, and was elected state representative. So I bring a lot of my private sector experience to the job, and it's been really fun, and we've made some headway, and we have a lot more work to do.
Let's start right off with questions about the budget. 2021 is a budget year. The state is projected to have a deficit of over $2 billion in each of the next 2 budget cycles. Tax revenue from businesses is expected to be down, as well as income from employees. How do you propose we balance the budget, and can we do this without raising taxes on businesses that are already struggling from the effects of the pandemic?
This is such a great question, Brian, and I'm glad you're asking everybody this, because this is really going to be one of the toughest budget cycles. And I do not support taxes on anyone, especially our middle class, especially our small businesses here. And I have really kind of, the beat of my drum is you reinvest in Connecticut and you innovate your way out of this pandemic. And that's exactly what I have been doing. The Angel Investor Tax Credit Program that we implemented in the Commerce Committee is funding incubator biotech startups here in Connecticut, and the return on investment has been huge. We can take that model and apply it to other sectors. The other thing I have done in commerce is invested in our growing manufacturing sector by expanding the apprenticeship training programs. And we also provide some matching grants for manufacturers to buy equipment. So investing in our companies here in Connecticut is how we are going to close that budget cap, by having a healthy economy and one that is vibrant and growing. So the other thing I want to say is I know I kind of started off that this is going to be a tough budget, but 2 years ago when we passed the budget, we put a lot of money into the rainy day fund, which is capped at 15% of our total budget. We have maxed that program out. There's $3.1 billion currently in the rainy day fund, and additional revenue, every time we hit that cap, goes into paying down our debt liability. So we have set ourselves up to have a very strong credit and to weather this pandemic better than any other state out there. We are currently ranked number 7 in terms of having the best opportunity for getting through our next budget cycle. So the good news is we do have some money in the bank, but we are going to have to make tough decisions. The governor has also proposed a 10% cut across state agencies and asked them to start looking for finding those savings. And 2 years ago, I also passed a bill that encouraged state employees to find ways to eliminate waste and encourages them to also get incentivized. They can actually receive 10% of the net savings. So I think with a lot of the programs we've put into place, the rainy day fund, we are going to be in good shape, and I'm confident we do not have to raise taxes.
Now, Connecticut has been one of the more aggressive states when it comes to shutting down businesses and schools during the pandemic. Do you think the governor is doing a good job with the shutdown? And what kind of support can be provided to industries that have not even been allowed to open since March? And if positive cases go on the rise again, is our only choice to shut down the state again?
I think that we put drastic measures in place because we didn't really understand what we were getting into. Shutting down is something of the past. What we need to do going forward is called pandemic management. And this is what is coming out of Harvard University as a tool and a way for us to operate safely and function as safe as we can without having to continue to close things down. We didn't even wear masks when this first thing started. So we now are doing the proper protocols of social distancing and wearing masks and spacing out and limiting the number of people that are indoors. So I am really going to lobby and push that we do not look back at what we did in March, which was to close businesses down, but really encourage us to open in a safe way. How we can help our businesses here is, there's some businesses that are doing really well. For example, if you're a grocery store or a liquor store or a Costco or a BJ's, your sales are through the roof right now. But there are other businesses, like if you own an escape room or if you're a full service restaurant, how are we going to help those businesses 6 months from now be in a better position? And we were given $1.4 billion from the CARES Act from the federal government. I have lobbied our governor to set aside about $25 million of those funds to give those companies a reimbursement. Many of these companies, if you've been out to eat, Brian, you've probably seen there's tents and there's heaters and there's plexiglass everywhere. Let's give them some of that money back. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars, and they're really probably making almost, nearly half of the sales that they did a year ago. So, I'd like to provide people a little bit of help. And additionally, we can use our Small Business Express program through DECD to help those smaller businesses that really need extra assistance over the next 6 months. Performing arts, even, museums, just trying to think, theaters, all of these things where there's a lot of people indoor. There's so many businesses that are teetering and on the brink of closing. And I think we'll be taking them for granted now, and if they do go under, we'll be kicking ourselves saying, I really wish we did something different. So those are some of the things that I'd like to invest in, to help get us through the storm. And also, I did want to say that we are doing some really amazing testing here in the state that I really hope rolls out soon. Testing that's rapid on the molecular level that will help us go without masks indoor to spaces and kind of get back to normal. So I'm looking forward to having those companies roll that technology out in the future.
Let's talk public safety. There's been an increase in car thefts in Rocky Hill and across the state. And recently, a controversial police accountability bill was passed. What can you do at the state level to help protect residents from car thefts and crime? And can you talk to us about if you support the police accountability bill and why?
Sure. I'd like to first talk about the police accountability bill. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about this bill. The first thing is I hear people saying that there's a defunding police movement in Connecticut. And I want to just reiterate to people that this bill does not defund police, but it actually gives additional funding for things like cameras, body cams, and dashboard cams. There are 64 sections of this bill. And when the bill came out, the first thing I did was call the police chiefs, talk to patrolmen and women, and ask for their comments on that I could take to my colleagues. And there are three very controversial sections. The first is qualified immunity. The second is use of force. And the third is consent searches. I took those comments up to the Capitol during special session. And I will say that going into the debate, we had enough votes to pull those sections from the bill. And as the debate went on and the night went on and, people were lobbied very hard, we ended up losing a lot of those votes and we weren't able to make the changes that we wanted to. But I will tell you that those three things will be seen in a full legislative session and go through the committee process and the hearing process, which to me I'm very supportive of. I think, I would have liked to see the whole bill go through the process, but there are good things in the bill. And the good things are providing more training to our officers, providing more assistance with mental health issues, providing more tools to officers, bringing in an inspector general to help with cases that have been lingering for a while. So I would ask people to look at the whole bill. There are 64 total sections, so there is a lot to it. And if there are additional things that need to be changed in the bill, to please reach out and let us know what those are, because to date I have heard of those three most controversial sections. Regarding crime, it's been really tough to see what's gone on in our suburbs, and there's a disparity between the haves and the have-nots, unfortunately, that we're witnessing during COVID. While we have households with parents that are helping kids get the education and the support they need, in our cities, the kids are just not getting, that same treatment, and they're turning to, coming to the suburbs in the middle of the night and robbing, cars, and, where does that lead to? So in the short term, I'd like to see more patrols and the hours where the crime has been going up in the evening. I'd like to hear from our local PDs on tools that they need to do the job better, whether it's increased technology. I've read about things like dummy vehicles that can trap, some of these thieves. I think this is a team effort that we all need to be at the table, because doing nothing right now really is not working. So the long term, I have talked to our chief state's attorney about juvenile justice reform. I think what's happening is that even when kids do get caught, they're just getting a hand slap. The punishment is not severe enough to cause them to change behavior. So we do need to look at our laws. We do need to make sure that we are doing the right thing, not only to protect our suburbs, but to make sure these kids are getting off the streets, punished if they need to be, and given a better, direction. I think even having curfews in the cities, some sort of night programs, night sports and things, we really need to change what's going on, because I'm just, really sad for kids that are getting lost in this. And I'm really worried for our community. Right now they're robbing cars, but, someone was shot at a few weeks ago. What happens when they start going into homes? This is going to spiral out of control. I want to make sure that I am a partner in helping our towns manage this crime and do whatever I can to make sure we work as a team and to slow this down and make sure it doesn't happen going forward. So I think we have a lot of work to do. It's a long-winded answer. I'm sorry. I wish we could snap our fingers and have a solution tomorrow. But I am willing to, help, and I will be working on this should I get reelected next year.
Aside from COVID-19 taking a toll on business, Businesses and residents have had to deal with an increase in utility costs from Eversource, MDC, and the internet companies. What can you do to help keep these costs down? And is there anything you can do to bring more choices for our utilities in Connecticut?
Well, I want to start with the internet because I had gotten a lot of calls from people saying that their Cox bill is going through the roof. And what are other options? And I know that Frontier is in the market, and there's a new internet provider, Go NetSpeed, that is coming in. Go NetSpeed will be coming to Rocky Hill in areas where there's poles. So any neighborhood that has underground wiring, is not going to be able to have this additional service, unfortunately. So yes, increased competition does lower costs. So I do want to make sure that I do lobby these companies to come into Wethersfield, Rocky Hill, and Newington. Regarding other utilities, we kind of, have one person, one company that gives us water, that's MDC, and we have one company that provides our electricity. And these costs are spiraling. They are becoming unaffordable for many families. And I've reached out to town officials and said, let's think outside the box on this. Wallingford has their own electrical provider. They're some of the cheapest electricity in the state. What happens if Rocky Hill approached Eversource and said, we want to control, the wires and distribution and start our own service here? I think we need to either look at this town by town or form a partnership with other towns and find what other solutions there are, because sitting back and saying this is, who's, providing these services is just not working anymore. At the state level, we just passed a bill called Take Back the Grid, and you will be seeing about an 89% savings per month on the bill with some of the things we did, which was cap employer compensation, provide a performance-based rating. And if there are long-term power outages, to compensate people for the time after 96 hours, and also give money to families if they lost food and medicine. That's just a Band-Aid bill. That was in response to the storm. I think we need to be doing a lot more in terms of generating electricity here in Connecticut. A lot of the costs, this delivery charge that we're seeing, that's about 3 times more than any other state, is because we're not generating enough here. In 2019, we passed a bill that allowed about 20 kilowatts of wind power, which will be coming off the New London shore. That's huge. That is the same amount of generation that Millstone currently provides our state. So, we have a lot of work to do in terms of generation here, but we have a lot of work to do to make sure our utilities are accountable. And additionally, let's look at some other options. We're not stuck to doing things as they always have been. So I'd like to try to see what other options we can provide customers here in our towns.
In the past few years, there have been bills introduced in Connecticut for a government-run healthcare option. The insurance and healthcare industries, which are some of Connecticut's largest employment sectors, are against the public option, saying that they will have to cut jobs. Are you in favor of a public option healthcare plan? If so, what will this plan look like? And if you're against it, how will you address the rising cost of health insurance?
I want to start the answer to this question by saying that our healthcare industry is a highly unregulated for-profit industry. So, we have that to start with. One of the things that we did recently was cap the cost of insulin. That is now providing government regulation. We can also do things like allow generic drugs from Canada to be brought in to our healthcare system, which will help some of the prescription drug costs. But really, competition is what breeds lower costs. I want to make sure that we have a competitive healthcare system while providing the best services that we have at a lower cost. We can ask, working with the federal government, we can ask our healthcare providers to list the cost of services, which currently they do not do. You go in to get an operation, you have no idea how much the cost is until you get the bill. But wouldn't it be nice to compare costs across different health systems? I think our insurance industry, which we were known as the insurance capital of the world, needs to grow here in our state. What are we doing to ask our insurers to say, how do you hire more people? How do you expand your services? They're now doing telehealth. They now have data centers. Are those growing here in Connecticut? Because last I looked, they're growing in Silicon Valley. They're going to Austin, Texas. But I'd like those sectors to come to our healthcare, hub of the world here in Hartford and grow. So, having that sort of we're open for business mentality with the insurance companies, I think is key. And there's also a whole education component to customers that have insurance about how we need to be asking better questions and making sure that we are covered in what we sign up for. Additionally, we can do something called a benchmarking of healthcare costs. This is something that has been done in other states like Massachusetts, and it has saved a lot of money. And we really, as a state, set a number to the cost in healthcare that we want to spend. And we work towards coming in under that benchmark. It has successfully worked and lowered costs in other states. Let's see, what else did I want to say? I think I covered everything, but it is a big topic. I'd like to see more competition. And I think it's a combination of things, which is both private and public sector. So, the one other thing I wanted to add was, if you are a state employee, our comptroller manages our healthcare system. And what he has done over the past few years is open this up for municipalities to join. So having this large segment of people all in one sector gives us a buying power and helps drive down costs. So I think, using that model, CBIA does this for their business members. Being part of a larger segment to negotiate lower costs, is another tool that we can be using for businesses and municipalities.
Now I got 3 questions left, and I'm looking for shorter answers with these ones because I think we could do them quick. So let's start off. If tolls come back on the table, would you vote for tolls?
There's a reason why we don't have tolls, Brian, and the reason why that ship has sailed, and it's because it was very unpopular. I am very supportive of a transportation plan that brings us to the 21st century. Our trains are slower, we still have bottlenecks on our road. We are not talking about autonomous vehicle lanes that other states are doing. We need more of an electric fleet and electric vehicle charging stations. So we are lagging behind, and I'd like to see us, number one, build some trust with the public on our special transportation fund and make sure that is funded the way we tell our taxpayers it's funded. And number two, set our sights much bigger on a transportation plan that is competitive throughout the country.
Would you vote to legalize marijuana for recreational use?
This is another topic that has come up last session. I have done a lot of research on it. There is a huge economic gain for our state. There's a jobs estimate of 17,000 new jobs for the state of Connecticut, an estimated $225 million a year in added revenue to the state. I would vote to legalize marijuana as long as we made sure we were properly funding programs to educate people on using it in a safe way and making sure that it doesn't get into the hands of children.
What is one cost that you could cut today from the state budget?
So I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I have seen our executive level outsource a lot of contracts to companies that are not here in Connecticut. So I would really like to see us stop using outside companies, and part of that reinvest in Connecticut that I was talking about earlier, use our local talent, which I think is the best that we have. And putting my realtor hat on, especially now with COVID and seeing all of these state buildings being vacant, we can look at the assets that we have as a state, sell those, maybe do a sale leaseback. We have land, but we really need to look at all of these assets that are bleeding money right now and get those off our books. And I think there's a lot of money that is being wasted, a lot of money that can be saved if we did get rid of get out of the business of owning so much real estate.
Now, that was my last question, but in closing, is there anything you would like to add to today's program for the viewers?
Yeah, I think that I really would like everyone to just look at my record. I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm very fiscally conservative. I did not support any tax increases. I did pass tax decreases. We have no income tax on our Social Security, pension, and annuity income, which will be fully phased out by 2025. I want to continue doing things like that. I want to focus on the affordability issue here in Connecticut. I think it's really important that as our economy gets stronger, we're able to give relief to people here by lowering taxes and encouraging growth. So that's the legislator that I've been over the past 2 years, and I'll continue to be. And for anyone that's reached out to me, I'm extremely accessible. I have my cell phone number and my email everywhere. I really enjoy helping people, and my door is always open.
Well, Kerry, on behalf of the Rocky Hill Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank you so much for participating in this event. And you can find more information about the Rocky Hill Chamber of Commerce at rhchamber.org. And please go support a Rocky Hill business today. Thank you.